Hey, you guys. Long time no see. And I still um, don't have my rendition of it. Actually, yeah, so I listened to Jack Hibbs. I shared it on my post. And I I need to listen to it again and look up the verses and things. Um, and I don't I don't remember ever reading Daniel much. I know it's talked about a lot, but if I had read some of Daniel, it was way before I knew about it connecting with. I mean, I might have gotten some verses out of it, like I have Isaiah and Jeremiah, but I don't remember. I know, yeah, I don't remember ever really reading Daniel. I loved Isaiah, Jeremiah, and another one, but I don't think it was Daniel. Anyway, enough of that frivolous talk. So I really was, this is so hard. And I realized tonight, this is the first time I've been able to go through it all at once, one sitting. And the way I've been doing it, going back and forth, it really makes you forget where you heard it, especially when you're reading it. Uh, you've passed it like several back, and then you hear it again, and you're like, ugh, and it's just impossible to remember where you read it. And then I'll go and I'll look and look and look. And it could be anything trivial, like when they praise him in heaven, sometimes they use the word salvation and honor and glory and power and wisdom, and sometimes they don't. So two times they do. And I just like cross referencing those kinds of things. And like only twice he'll say, "It is done." And those are just two examples. This happens to me, like, I've been doing this like a week now, every night. And every night I barely get past something before my dog is like, enough of that. Because I could literally sit here for hours and then I'll get up, but I'm just saying it. So then, yeah, you get to the point where you want to cry, and I have. And then the other night, I was laughing so hard, my stomach hurt. I mean, just being delirious, or I just laugh because it starts getting to you, and I get so I don't know, jumbled, and I was just laughing so hard, and I felt that I was being silly with whatever it was. I'm like, God, this is crazy how I'm thinking or trying to figure, because, you can read about the seals or the vials or the trumpets, and they're like, okay, the seventh vial, the seventh seal, and the seventh trumpet are all the end. Yeah, kind of. Well, the vial and the trumpet, seven, but the sixth seal is the end, Heaven is rolled up like a scroll. But then you read further down in seven, the seal, and it basically is the end, because all three of those, the seventh seal, trumpet, and vial, this is another thing, they all say the same thing. They'll say voices and lightnings and thunders and an earthquake. And one time it'll say, one of those, it says fire and hail mixed with blood. And then I think the vial, the last one, which they're all three, I think, happening at the same time. And actually, those seals, Jesus has to unlock them all before that book can be opened. So I think that book is, now that it's open, it'll tell you what the trumpets are and what the vials are. Okay? But yet the seals have meaning. So when he broke those seals off, the meanings of them are to prophesy the trumpets and the vials into being, because God spoke the earth and everything into being by words. So when the seals are broken off of the book to be able to be opened and prophesied out, the trumpets and the vials and everything else, those seals too have themselves in them a prophecies that have to be broken, spoken to, I guess, I don't know, I'm thinking that's how it is. So in other words, the first horse is a seal and he goes to conquer, he's conquering, and he's given a crown, he's given a bow, and he's going out to conquer and conquering. And that is opening up the prophecy of everything that's like the beast, the Antichrist, the false prophet, the whore, I guess, war. And about this, like, wars and rumors of wars, and yet in Revelation, you know, you're thinking, well, I think they're tired of, they're mad that the whore got killed. Well, see, now that I've been reading it the way I've been reading it, and then I come across, maybe it was chapter 11, but see, I can't really ever pin something down. Oh, and then the way it would be worded, like, and when the voice of the seventh trumpet is sounded. And then I think to myself, when? Oh, so it's not happening yet? But then you read down, and it is. And anyway, so for like 5-6 days now, I've been reading this a lot every day. And I thought I was really getting it figured out the way my thoughts were, to where all this happens in the beginning. And I even made the videos saying that I'm not going to do, I'm just interpreting this without the seals and the trumpets and the vials. But once you start doing this, seals, trumpets, and vials, those are incorporated in the timing. And so if I was doing it without them, then now I try to add them. See, that's where I started running into problems. But I have them all written down, like, which one would I begin with? See, I can't even remember this stuff until I start reading it. And I can't sit here and read it all to you and show you an example. But I've made notes, like, in all kinds of different ways. And the next way I was going to make notes was to just do all of Babylon, all of the bride, all of the, because where I run into snags. Okay, so if I was doing it the way I thought, and if I'm wrong, okay, I'm wrong. And the book will, like, actually, like chapter 19 proves me wrong all day long. But still, if I were then to do it, an example of my way and an example of the other way, where all of that is happening in the second half, where I'm thinking it's all in the first half. And there's even some discrepancies I come across that I'm like, and I know 19 is very plain. You know, if you ever want to read Revelation, you ought to start from the back and just read it backwards, because to me, I'm figuring out that's kind of how, because when you get that down, then when you read the other stuff, you can fill in some blanks, but even then you may not. So let me see. Like there is, and I've tried to do this so many different ways because it's hard to even read my own notes or understand. Like I did a diagram here, which kind of made it easier for me, but it's not even really a diagram. It's like a scribble. It's like a giant, I mean, it's a bunch of blob, and then I got this. So it's even hard for me to look at. But this was where I was doing. So if I do these notes over and over in different ways, when I'm having a different question about something, and so I don't do it all the time, but some things I do. And this is where I've like 1618 is the seventh vial, and that's when you hear the voices and lightnings and thunders and an earthquake. And then there's the one where it's the vial, and it's the earthquake that splits the great city, which Babylon is called the great city. So this Bible says it's Jerusalem. And then when I look it up, they say that it's argued about whether it's Jerusalem or whether it's Babylon. But when I read it, to me, it clearly means Babylon. So I don't really read his commentaries much, but every now and then I will. And I must have skipped over his little parentheses for a long, long time, but finally I read it and he said Jerusalem. I was like, what the hell is he talking about? And I just scribbled it out, or I just put Babylon in there. But that's how I read it. I think it's Babylon. And then there's another, okay, so in Revelation, it repeats himself a lot, but in different forms. And then you have to start inserting the vials sometimes. Like if you're imagining, I know he gives them in chunks, like the chapter whatever is vials, and the other chapter 8 and 9 maybe are the trumpets. But still, he says other things in between that you're, okay, like, see, I can't give an example. Like, for example, the woe of, um, the locusts. And, you know, then there's the four angels holding the four corners of the earth. And then the fifth is some other oddball angel comes flying in and says, don't touch the earth until we've sealed the 144,000. Okay, I think those four angels are the four trumpets angels, because those aren't woes. The fifth trumpet is a woe, number one. Sixth trumpet is woe number 2. Seventh trumpet is woe number 3. So I think those four angels holding the four corners of the earth. And then the fifth angel comes in and says, stop, don't touch. It says, don't hurt the earth. And the four trumpets and the four vials are doing what? They're hurting the earth. The seals aren't really, I don't remember. See, I've read it so many times, I still can't remember. It is crazy. Break the... I don't think there's any earth hurting in that. Seals. So, okay, so then I was trying to give you an example. Then when somewhere else it says the locusts, they're hurting people for 5 months, but they're not allowed to touch the 144,000. So see, that's an example of you are inserting a whoa. So let's see. I can maybe go through these notes a little bit. I did. So like 10 is is this 10? Okay, there's silence in heaven. for 30 minutes. That's a seal. That's the 7th seal that opens the book. All 7 of those seals have to be opened in order to open the book. So the 7th of them, which is the last one, because you can now open the book. You can't open the book if you got 3 left or 2 left or 5 left. Okay, so the 7th one, there is silence in heaven for 30 minutes. And to me, that's when the vial the 7th vial, the 7th trumpet, because there's also an angel that takes the incense and she, with the prayers of the saints, and she adds fire to it and she throws it to the earth. And then you hear voices and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. Okay, that's in chapter 8, but like I've cross-referenced it. I've cross-referenced lots of stuff. So I don't even know what this video will be about other than the fact that, you know, it's taken me years to get to know even the Bible on other stuff, minus prophecy. So I can't be learning this in 1 week. And maybe it's easy for others if they were reading it every day and they'd probably figure it out, but not me. So I'm just saying. The way I did it originally, yeah, it was easy to figure out. Not super easy, but I still think it's easier than if, I mean, it's not really easier. What it is it's more digestible to think that everything happens in the beginning, like the beast and the whore. Because see, like Jack Hibbs said, he said the whore in Babylon are a religious system. And I agree with that. But I also know that the whore and Babylon are very wealthy. And religious systems aren't, I don't really picture. The only thing that came to mind when he said that, because that does make sense also, because like I made a post because I read it somewhere and it was a good point, is that the whore is actually opposite of the bride. And when each one is described individually, it is described by an angel of one of the vials. And it starts off that way. This is one of the angels of the vials. She says, "Come, let me show you Babylon." And then somewhere other chapter, not even together side by side, it says, this is an angel of one of the vials. Come, let me show you the bride. So they're polar opposites. And what was I going to say this for? Because, sorry. So, oh, he was saying it was a religious system. So, but anyway, she's very wealthy. So the verse that I thought of is, you cannot serve God and mammon. You must serve, or you will serve one or the other. You cannot serve both. So Babylon is a religious system of money and religion of all world. You know, the World Economic Forum, they all have, every single religious leader, Buddha, Hindu, all that, and their priests and whatever they call themselves. They love that. And I can totally see that. And I agree that Islam probably will not like that. So they might get done away with. And or at least they'll be suppressed. But I'd be glad if that dead dog were buried even in the trib. I don't even wish that garbage on the trib. I mean, yikes, that stuff is nasty. I'm about fed up with this Muslim. I'll be happy if it dies in the trib, and then all the other religions can have their way, because that would make sense then, because there won't be any more anti-Semitism, because it's that rotten demonic religion is the only one that can't love everybody and be free and have freedom of religion. They're the only ones. Because they are Satan, and Satan wants to be like God, and that's what it's always going to fight for. Now, if they're done away with, praise God. Hallelujah and amen. God bless the trib. I mean, that's another thing about the trib. This sounds so freaking scary for all these saints, these trib saints. Oh, wow. That is, So I believe that it's going to be all these religions that will fit in with the Isaiah 19:25, and then I think somewhere else in 19 or somewhere else in Isaiah it says the same thing about Egypt, or vice versa. The same thing about Assyria. Assyria is going to be able to walk back and forth to the temple to worship. And that will be in the first half. Same way as how I was doing it, but I knew there'd be like a peace and safety, but yet the whore would still be able to go around killing people, because you guys listen, if you don't see it, you're not watching enough channels or news or whatever, or how these Democrats and that DSA they call, I even talked to my boss from work. He tells me constantly, I'm listening to fake news. I'm listening to whatever the word is, that we say to each other. It's like, that's not real. He calls Trump a rapist. And when I started telling him, he just yells over me. I said, listen, anybody can be a rapist if you want to peddle that with the news and whatever little bitty titty weeny things you find. I was like, but look at Biden and Hunter Biden. Oh, then he starts screaming over me because he can't want to hear that. Well, they never went to trial. Oh, well, Trump was convicted. He was proven, that woman in that department store in the dressing room, blah, 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 whatever. I'm like, are you harping on that? Really? Thank God he's not mentioning the Epstein files or whatever, but he's just crazy. You guys, I see it on these channels too. It's true. These people are so crazy. They literally believe they are right, and so do we. And we're polar opposites. But the difference is they want to kill, and so does Islam. They want to kill for it. They will get on their late night shows and be happy about it. Any attempted assassination or Elon Musk fired all the people that were joking after Charlie Kirk. And everyone's always sticking up for the perpetrator, Candace Owens, and not the victim. This is so eerie and evil and glaring. Never in human history, nobody's lived in Sodom and Gomorrah or Noah's day, but I can imagine this is about how it was. So anyway, yeah, if it were my way, because I noticed that the seals, they don't really match my way. The seventh one, they just don't. They don't match how, sometimes they do match the way I've explained it, and sometimes they don't. So I can't go with that if it doesn't all line up. But still, there's other things that I don't think line up, like this Babylon, like how I told you I reference things. So suppose if I can find it, because I never can find where I've tried to make notes to where it'd be easier to understand and find, but I haven't succeeded totally. But like say chapter 16 in the vials. 16:19. It said, and I was probably, I have my Bible out because if I went over this, I was going to try to read it because these are very vague notes and I wanted to kind of read and show you what I would be talking about. But, all right, so let me read 16:19 and this Bible, it's so hard to. Okay, where's the 19? It's over on this page. And the great city was divided into 3 parts. Okay. And the city of the nations fell. Okay, this is that very last vial, but we're not talking about, well, maybe this is vials. Is it? Yes, probably. No, yes, it is. So, okay. But, in 18:5, it's the same thing. Okay. I'll show you what I mean, hopefully. If you bear with me, then you'll see how I can't show you every little thing because this just takes so long. Okay, so he says, and the 7th angel poured out his vial into the air. And there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven from the throne saying, it is done. It is done is also spoken in 21 verse 6. But that's not where I'm going. I'm going to go to 18:5. And I think it's in a third spot. And there were voices and thunders and lightnings. And there was a great earthquake, such as was not since men were upon the earth. That's the biggest earthquake since men have ever been on the earth. Okay, so mighty an earthquake and so great. Okay, period. Wait. And the great city was divided into 3 parts. And the cities of the nations fell. The nations, that's the whole world. Everything fell. But yet I can find it in another chapter where Jesus here is... See, it would take me forever to find this stuff. That's why I try to make notes where it's easier for me to go back and forth, because these pages I am going back and forth. And I try to make these quick reference. So, but anyway, this isn't my point anyway, but somewhere Jesus, with the sword of his mouth, when he comes back, he is destroying the nations. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, they're already destroyed right here. But nevertheless, that's not my point. What I was getting at is something else. So, and great Babylon came in remembrance before God to give unto her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath. And every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. So then you go to, where did I say? 18:5. Uh-oh. Where am I? Oh, no. No, it's 16. Am I in 16? Okay. Sorry. See, you guys, my memory, I don't even know if it's a memory problem or if it's a book problem, because there's so much I get sidetracked with that I can't remember what I was. Plus, it's a memory thing a little bit, but no worse than it's always been. So, or I mean, lately. So, let me see. Okay, 18:5. No, 18. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she has filled, fill unto her double. Okay, so this to me is... Okay, she's saying what she's saying. She's like not a widow. But see, if you go to 16:19, the whole spiel is different. It is a vial. And so we know, is this the one? Yeah. So we know this is toward the end. We know it's the end because it's a vial. But see, men blaspheme God. Okay, so men are blaspheming God. That's the end also. That is in 16:9, 16:11, 16:21, because it's the end. Because the vials and the trumpets are being unloaded on them, and they're cursing God. They're saying, "Let the rocks fall on us." In 6:11, way back in 6. So, well, my notes are too abbreviated probably to give you a clear, but what I'm talking about this Babylon being remembered is in the vial, is in Zechariah 5:5 through 11. There's that woman who's put in a leader or whatever it's called with a lid, and she's carried away with wings like a stork, because that's an unclean bird. And she's put in the land of Shinar, which is ancient Babylon. So that's what I think this earthquake that's going to split 3 ways is. He's remembering Babylon, see, because he's already destroyed her. He's repeated it in like chapters 16, 17, 18, 19, I think. He keeps talking about Babylon and how many different ways he's describing how he's just going to chop her to the ground, right? So, I can't give you an example because I can't remember, and my notes I've got. Okay, so, but the way things are worded in all those chapters talking about Babylon, and then he starts talking about something else, you're thinking, well, wait a minute. If that's happened, everything's, like, for example, everything is already flattened. What do you mean you're going to remember Babylon? She's already, that may not be the point, or I mean the example, but I'm just telling you that, like, hypothetically, it seems like I'll read stuff like that all the time. It's like, well, how can you be saying that? Because you just said that way over in another chapter that everything's demolished, right? So whatever I was thinking, if I were to read it all to you, it's like, but everything is already. So in 1619 particularly, not 18:5 where God remembered Babylon. That's a different context in my understanding than 1619 when he says he remembers Babylon. Because whichever chapters those are, 16 or 18, the examples, to me, it's like saying he's already killed Babylon, but it's the very, very, very end. And he's like, I'm going to remember Babylon. I mean, this is, well, maybe I'm thinking of my own way where I think everything's in the first half. I'm going to have to then reread all this again in the other format where the prevailing opinion is that this stuff happens in the second half. So, but I guess in my mind, I've got it already in my mind locked in that it's all happening in the first half. But either way, this 1619, when he says he's going to remember her, to me, it sounds like everything's already been done. And what he's doing is he's going to go back to the original Babylon, Iraq, the land of Shinar, where original Babylon was. And I think the Tower of Babel was there. That's like the hellhole. Well, no, really not, because what's that other, Gehenna over there in Jerusalem or Israel? There's Gehenna. Anyway, or the land or something about that. Well, anyway, In other words, there's like the Dead Sea, for example. They say maybe that might be Sodom and Gomorrah, where the hail stuff fell. And, there's just certain places on the earth, Bible lands, that certain things happen. Now, whether that's true or not about the Dead Sea, I don't know. They say that's why it's salty. Whether that's the original Sodom and Gomorrah, I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't remember. I don't know. But see what I mean? Like, there's certain historical things that have happened in the Middle East that are still to this day, like even the Bible will say, and it's uninhabited to this very day. So Babylon is Iraq and original Babylon. So when he talks about it in 1619, for example, I think that when Babylon, the whore, the religious system, and it's a money system. It's both to me, because obviously she's rich. She's very rich. All the kings of the earth and the merchants, everybody love her. And when she dies, and by the way, Jesus overcame the 10 kings. They gave their power to the beast for 1 hour, and she happens to be dying in an hour or being killed. But I'm going to get sidetracked and not remember where I'm going. But anyway, they get their power from the beast, but then they give it back to him, and they want to kill the whore, and they do. But I think they kill her first, then they give their power and strength after that to the beast. Well, whatever, it doesn't matter. Jesus ends up overcoming the 10 kings because they fight him, and he overcomes them. So I forgot why I was wanting to say that, but I don't know, just certain things. Okay, so it's a religious system, it's a money system, it's very wealthy. The 10 kings are overcome by Jesus, so they're gone now. You just have the beast and the false prophet and the image of the beast, okay? So this war of Armageddon, yeah, these wars and rumors of wars. I'm thinking that the kings and the merchants and the nations outside of the 10 kings that Jesus overcame, they're very upset that all that got done away with, because Satan wants to be running everything. He doesn't want competition with the whore. He wants to be the provider somehow, some way. And the rest of the world is mad and angry about it. And they probably end up wanting to, well, the Bible says that Jesus gathers. Oh, and he was saying something else. His vesture dipped in blood. So I was already thinking, that's chapter 14, where but to me, that's a little confusing too, because then you go to 19. 14 and 19 to me are, to me, even if it proves my interpretation wrong, which is probably wrong because I was doing without the seals, without the trumpets, because I meant to do it that way. And then I was going to go back and start, dotting everything in, because you've got like these woe, and you're not allowed, the locust can't touch the 144, and the 144 are following him. And then, see, I can just show you all the things, but it would take me way too long. But I'm not saying I'm sitting here writing down, oh, these are discrepancies. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are things I still haven't figured out yet, and I've taken years to understand or to learn the Bible just in daily life, but to learn it with prophetic, I wouldn't be able to learn that in a week. I mean, maybe, but I don't have 24/7 to sit around and read it. I'm sure nobody else does either. And it would take me years. So, but the 14, I was saying something about 14, and so that was about like what I meant about Babylon is over there in Iraq. And I was thinking, well, God is going to remember original Babylon and crack her open. Because, I mean, if it's a religious system and a money system, and yeah, it's burning in the smoke of her torment, and everybody's watching and crying and all upset, I think that's just the ships in the sea. There's something that's blowing up and burning, and they ate her flesh and everything. So that's probably in a location, but it's not Iraq. But ancient Iraq is the real Babylon, and it's mentioned in Zechariah. And I think God is going to split it there as the final, I remembered Babylon kind of deal. Like he already took down Babylon, the system and the money, the religion, you know, but now he's going to go take down original Babylon. All right. This is always going to mess me up. The everlasting gospel angel, the Babylon is fallen angel, the do not worship the beast angel. Okay. To me, why are they saying that? If people have already taken the mark, and the ones who haven't, they're either chained up somewhere getting tortured out in the sun, something, I don't know, baking in the sun, because it talks about no more will the sun light on them anymore. They won't hunger and thirst anymore. They're tribulation saints, right? And then God is going to heat up the sun. Okay, so I'm thinking they're getting tortured out there. They're not over there in Jerusalem in the outer court, trampled by the Gentiles because it was left out in the measuring. And then the two witnesses get killed. They get raised. Everybody, then after they get raised back up to heaven, there's a great earthquake. A tenth of the city falls. 7,000 people die. And the remnant, they're all seeing this, those who are there, because 7,000 died. So obviously there's people packed in there. They're also seeing it on television worldwide. But it said the remnant saw and they gave glory to God. Okay. If you have the mark of the beast, you're not going to be giving God glory. I don't care what kind of miracle he performs. You've already been seeing the false prophet perform miracles. You see the two witnesses performing miracles. You're just seeing a bunch of crazy shit going on, okay? It's going to be possessed big time around there. You don't want to be in the trip. So, yes, the people glorified God. That means they didn't have the mark of the beast. Okay? They didn't have the mark of the beast. So why, unless they're chained up out there in the sun baking and burning, and they were able to see this and they're like, yay, God, it's an earthquake and 7,000 people died. Woohoo! But it said the remainder who lived gave glory to God as if they had no opinion of do they want the mark of the beast or do they want God? So there's no middle of the road there. If you don't, so see, I think this proves in 14 that there isn't a mark of the beast offered yet. Because if you're at that point and you're hanging up around in there in Jerusalem and you're pissed at the two witnesses, you're angry at the Republicans, so to speak, and the Christians, whatever, you can't just be neutral like that. You'll have to take a mark of the beast if it's offered, because you're not going to be able to buy or sell. So what are you even doing there to see 7,000 people get killed when a tenth of the city crumbles with that earthquake? And then these angels are saying, don't take the mark of the beast. Then they're saying Babylon has fallen. They're giving you the everlasting gospel. Why? Why are they giving you the everlasting gospel? Because the ones that do believe in Jesus are being tortured and baked and burned and tormented and imprisoned. They don't need the gospel. They already know the gospel. They don't need persuasion to accept Jesus. Then they say, do not worship the beast. It says, do not take his mark. Do not worship the beast. And I've cross-referenced yeah, okay, never mind. Yeah, so why are the angels saying that unless a mark has been made mandatory? Because as soon as that's made mandatory, okay, so suppose this happens in the second half. Why are there even saints around to be getting killed? They've already been through the... Okay, so if the first half is peaceful, see, this is why this would take me years. Because I have so many questions that it's like... And people just breeze over it when they teach it. Even when they teach it, like Jack Hibbs went big time aerial view, just synopsis. But even when people go in depth, they never have explained these things. Like you're thinking, okay, yeah, you can't buy or sell. All right, well, that's not good enough information, because then when you get reading into this, you're thinking, if you're thinking about it, you're like, how are these people surviving? Maybe some they're saying, you don't have to take it, but you're not going to buy and sell. We're not going to imprison you. We're not going to behead you right now. You can probably just die of starvation. I don't know. But obviously they don't want to take a mark for a reason. And it's because they're saved, or they got saved. Okay, so that's just all. That's just, like I said, and because then he goes on to say, this is the patience of the saints. Now, I was doing it my way, and over here in 14:12, it says, this is the patience of the saints. And then it says, obey the commandments of God, something like, and the faith in Jesus, okay? But in 12:17, which I can't remember it, I know it's about the woman and the dragon and the this and that, but it says similar. It says, this is the patience of the saints. And then they must keep the commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus Christ. This one in 14:12 says, and the faith in Jesus Christ. And the way I read these two, because they're different and by what they're saying, and I can't remember what they are, but in 12:17 and 14:12, because of what's going on and what's happening, to me, the one that says in 14:12, this is the patience of the saints and the faith in Jesus, that's because it's too late to even testify about Jesus. Everybody's already taken the mark, and you just got to have your faith in Jesus. Over here in 12:17, it's worded differently. Commandments of God and the testimony of Jesus. That tells me that there's still some time to give you, to give the testimony of Jesus. You're allowed. Like it's the first half. Okay? There's freedom. There's a bunch of false peace. Everybody's in love with the Antichrist. Like he said, you got Antichrist t-shirts. And yeah, he's a Jew, because the Jews are going to be able to like worship him, and not like he's God, but they might think he is Messiah. Okay? So, but the Jews, they believe in a Messiah. Jesus, but they don't know it's Jesus yet. But they don't think he is God. I don't think. They just think they're two separate things. They're like the Messiah. That's why they got angry at Jesus, saying, "You say you're God. You say you're the Son of God. How heretical of you." So when the Jews, this Antichrist, they think he's the Messiah, but they don't think he's God. They just think, okay, he's Jesus, he's the Messiah. But when he gets in the temple and says, I'm God, like Jesus has said through the century, since the beginning of time, Jesus says, I am God. Jews don't think it goes that way. Jews don't care who the Messiah is. If they know it's the Messiah, their Messiah better not say he's God, because that's just how they don't believe it that way. They don't believe they're one. They believe they're two separate things. Even if the Antichrist in their mind is Messiah, that's all good and fine. They think he is the Messiah, but as soon as the Messiah that they think is Messiah says, I'm God, that's when they go, I'm hitting the road, Jack, because you better not say you're God. They've been saying that in the Bible. They say, you can't call yourself God. You can't call yourself the Son of God. That's not how they believe the Messiah and God are. They believe they're two separate things. So anyway, and I think Antichrist has to be a Jew. And of course, there's bad Jews. There's going to be a lot of bad Jews in the tribulation. And then there's going to be this is probably where the whole world from time immemorial thinks good people go to heaven. They don't need a savior. Good people go to heaven, right? That's because that is not only the mentality of human nature, but the Jews, when they brought the word to the world, it was one true God. It was about being good, keeping all the commandments, like when Jesus talks and they say, what do I do to be saved or to go to heaven? I keep all the commandments. Jesus even says, keep the commandments. And he says, I have from my youth up, whatever. They're all about being good, and it'll get you into heaven, and it'll get you good with God. If you're having a bad life, you're probably not on God's good side. This is true to a degree, and it is what the Jews believe. So where was I going with that? I was trying to connect it with something, but I was also on another subject, and that is that this peace, and they'll be able to worship in the temple, this fake Messiah, false Antichrist. They think it's okay. And then the Egyptians and the Syrians, they're going to be able to go back and forth on the Feast of Tabernacles, or they won't get any rain. For years, year by year, that's probably because it is fake peace. I've already said this stuff is how I think, but I'm just saying it's when you read Revelation, even in depth, you need to insert what people are doing. What are people doing? What are the ones, like I just pointed out, the everlasting gospel, Babylon has fallen. There's a couple other places in the Bible where I'm thinking, oh, this proves the mark of the beast hasn't come yet. What is it? Like even in way back here, when Jesus backtracks, he's like saying, I come quickly. And then now he's talking to the people on earth again. And he said, and he's reminding them about and he's saying, because see, this is what I mean about, you see the New Jerusalem come down, and then there's the earthly Jerusalem. So now he's talking about this tribulation, earthly Jerusalem. And he's saying, for without the walls, for without the city, he says, so to me, I'm thinking, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around and I didn't finish any of the things I was saying, but maybe I'll get back to it. It says that they may have the right to the tree of life. He's just he's just trying to remind you that after all this, and then he says, and may enter through the gates into the city of Jerusalem. Okay. This is, I think he's hopped back to reality. He's already explained millennium and new earth and all that. And he's trying to remind you that in the trib, you're going to, you know, it was measured with a reed. And he said, also measure in the temple those who are worshiping in the temple. There's going to be people worshiping in the temple. He measured it with a reed. But then you go back to the new heaven and earth. He's measuring with a golden reed. Okay, it's a golden reed. Well, anyway, here he says, and so to me, this is what, and may enter in through the gates into the city where I'm thinking they're hidden. Okay, for without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers. Well, there ain't no whoremongers and dogs and any of that in eternity. There's none of this in new heaven and new earth or New Jerusalem. You know, this to me sounds like it's the Mount of Olives, like I was thinking, because you're hidden, and it's saying if you keep the commandments, you're hidden. See, blessed are they who do his commandments, that they might have the right to the tree of life. Also, another throughout, it says works. He says it here again in the end about your works. Okay, so, but it's not working to get into heaven. It's just, that's evidence of you wanting to serve. Like he says in the end, they're going to serve me for all eternity. If you don't like serving him now on earth, then yeah, he is serving him. Okay, so they may enter, for without are dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters and whosoever loves and makes a lie. Why do people not explain that? Because all this, there will be no lie in heaven. There will be nothing that causes a lie. I think that's in here somewhere. In heaven, that lies can't exist, dogs can't exist. There's going to be even nothing outside of the walls. All that is burning up in the pit of hell, and you can see it burning for all eternity, it says somewhere. So, but yes, I guess I just want here to tell you that I might have been closer to figuring it out, but now that I ran across, before Jack Hibbs, I saw Jack Hibbs' video up, but I didn't want to watch it because I'm like, I don't want any influence right now. I don't want to, no. And I didn't watch it for 2 days. It's 2 days old, and I watched it today, but I watched it today because last night I had read it already for a whole week, but it hit me a different way. And it was where it's talking about the seventh trumpet, and somewhere else it's mentioning the seventh trumpet, and it's worded a certain way. And I thought, oh, well, it's not immediate. But then last night I was like, it is, it's like over. I was like, this ruins everything. And then I went to bed. I was like, God, if you don't answer me, if you don't explain this, I'm done, because this doesn't work the way I'm thinking. And so anyway, and that's fine. I mean, I've said before, if I can't figure this out, I'm just going to drop it. But, I forgot what I was saying. Anyway, the 7 vial and trumpet and all that, it is basically everything's over, and there is no first half the way I'm thinking. But I still going over it again after last night, going to bed thinking, oh, this can't work. I'm going through it again. And I had listened to Jack Hibbs, but I still, going over it again, I can't understand who are these people that haven't taken the mark. They're not Christians, and they're being preached to. I can understand if the Jews are being preached to by the 144,000. Yeah, I can understand that. And yeah, like they're following Jesus. I even found like, okay, so you can't hurt the 144,000 while the locusts are going for 5 months, and angels not to hurt the earth. Okay, that's in 7. So those are probably, could be trumpets, maybe they're not. Didn't hurt. Okay. So what was I thinking? Like, okay, in 7, nothing's really going on yet, really, I don't think. I don't know why I can't remember this stuff anymore. I mean, I can remember Bible verses all the time, but without Google, but this, I can like read it, but 5 minutes later, I can't remember it at all. That's why every day I have to reread it, like Groundhog Day. Or what was that movie with Drew Barrymore where she had amnesia, and every day it was like she forgot, and that guy had to keep acting like it was First Date. I think it's called First Date. So yes, this is kind of how it is with me with the book of Revelation. So every day I have to read it again. And if I don't finish it, then forget it. I got to start all over again. So tonight I have finished it finally without breaking off, you know? Anyway. So, yeah. I am strange that way lately. I don't know why I can't remember anything. So, however this is, I cross-referenced it, but I'd have to go back and read the whole chapter and tell you in these chapters. There's 14, 14. And then, oh, there's something else about the bride. Hopefully I'll remember what I'm trying to, okay, 10 hasn't killed or, not written. Oh, darn, what was it? For God. I mean, was it this one? This one of them had a lot of, and the earth was like, okay, here. All right, and this is another reason it's hard to remember all this stuff is because, okay, in 18, he's going over the whore again. I mean, I think there's like 4 chapters of her where he at least says 1 or 2 things, or if not the whole chapter. So, but I keep trying to remind myself because I wrote it down. Oh, because he mentions it in 14 and in 17 and in 18 and maybe somewhere else. Okay. But I remember 18 verse 4. He says, come out of her, my people, so that you don't participate in her sins and plagues and whatever. Now, if that's not some kind of a rapture, then maybe he means you better obey me and give my testimony of Jesus Christ, faith in Jesus. You better do my commandments. I mean, what does he mean, come out of her? Is it like a rapture? So every time he talks about Babylon and the whore in all these chapters, you have to always remember, even when the angels are saying, Babylon is fallen, you have to remember, he has already said, come out of her, my people, before those angels. Oh, and I was going to say, in 14, yes, and to me, that's tricky. And this guy, his commentary, I don't believe his commentary, what he said, because he says, what am I doing? Let's see. In the midst. Is it 14? He's like, surely it is. Where is it? It's probably, I don't, this isn't it. Patience. No. Is it 11? Oh, darn, you guys, I'm so sorry. See, this is just crazy. My memory is crazy. I can remember a few verses a few chapters what they're about, but let me just Google this. I have to do this all the time because I am...
And dry like a wilderness, and flocks shall lie.
And he reaped the grapes.
The phrase, and he reaped the
okay,
grapes,
it is 14.
comes from the book of Revelation.
It's probably because this guy's got so much commentary, you gotta go around way far away. Okay, and that no man might buy or sell. No. Am I not even in 14? Okay, no, I'm not. I'm in 13. That's another problem because the way it's... Okay. 14. Okay, so where's the beginning of 14? And I saw another angel fly in the midst, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them who dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people. Okay, so why would he be doing that? If they've all taken the mark of the beast. And if they haven't taken the mark because they believe in Jesus. I don't get it. Okay, so let's get to the grapes. Where was it? See, oh, is it later? What does it say? 17. Okay, yes, here. I can probably my notes, but this is where Jesus stands on Mount Zion. Yeah. Okay, that's in the beginning. All right. Yes, his vesture was dipped in blood, but I still don't understand this. Also, you'll notice, what chapter is it? He has, yeah, it's here, 4:14. Jesus on, this is an example of what I will be doing when I notice things. So he in chapter 19, Jesus is coming back with the great army and everything, right? He's wearing many crowns. Many crowns. Because if it's us coming back, we cast our crowns on him. Yeah, that's probably a Bible verse. But yet here in 14:14, he has one crown. And that's because he hasn't reaped yet. And this gets confusing because this way, this guy's commentary, I don't agree with. So he says, having on his head a golden crown. So if he's reaping as in the rapture, and then he does say the vine of the earth. See, this is a play to not a play, but like we abide in the vine. Jesus is the vine. That's who we abide in. These people are abiding in the vine of the earth. And anyway, so that's not what I'm getting at. So another angel came out of the temple, crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, which is Jesus. Thrust in your sickle and reap, for the time is come for you to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's not. Maybe it's he's harvesting the grapes of wrath to tread them. But so it says, And he who sat on the cloud thrust in his sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. Period. That's so he reaped it. He thrust in the sickle and he reaped it. But then it goes on and it says, and another angel. So this is by now the fifth angel, because you had the angel speaking the everlasting gospel, the angel saying Babylon's fallen, the angel saying don't take the mark of the beast. And then you said you have this fourth angel is telling Jesus, thrust in your sickle and reap. That's the fourth angel. Okay. And then the fifth angel, and another angel. So Jesus listened to that angel and he reaped. And then another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven. He also having a sharp sickle. And what does this guy say? This guy starts getting twisted and he says, that's Jesus. But then later on down, it's plainly not Jesus. But yet, whatever. I just scribbled it out. So another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven. He also having a sharp sickle. So this guy thinks that this is another angel is actually Jesus, I guess, because he's saying, well, whatever. I haven't seen it yet. Okay. He also having a sharp sickle, period. And then it said, and another angel, which is the sixth angel, came out, but from the altar, okay? Which had power over fire, okay? And cried with a loud cry to him who had the sharp sickle. He's calling this angel, saying Jesus. He's calling to Jesus. But I don't think he's doing that. It says, and cried with a loud cry to him who had the sharp sickle, which is this angel here that came out of the temple of God. And he also having a sharp sickle, because Jesus already has reaped, and that angel is telling Jesus to reap. That angel doesn't have a sickle. Thrust in, yeah. Another angel came out of the temple crying with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, thrust in your sickle, Jesus, and reap. Okay? For the harvest is ripe. So yes, of course, this is Jesus settling on the cloud. He thrust in his sickle and he reaped. 17. And another angel came out of the temple, which is in heaven, he also having his own sharp sickle. And then that altar angel came out with fire. And that altar angel cries to the angel with the sickle coming out of the temple. He's telling that angel to thrust his sickle in and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel who has the sickle, the fifth angel, thrust in his sickle into the earth. It's not Jesus. It's plainly not Jesus, but yet this guy won't admit it, and or whatever, because it explains it right here. This has so many typos anyway. Sometimes they put a period before the parentheses, sometimes after. Sometimes they capitalize something, sometimes they don't. I think they've really messed up. Sometimes when they don't know the answer, they'll just say, they don't believe in the cross of the Christ of something, something. You know, I mean, the cross of Jesus Christ, but I'm saying they'll just make it about Jesus and the cross and the something. Okay? And the angel thrust in his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and cast it into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Yes, and the winepress was trodden without the city He's treading it in the city, but it's called Clusters of the Vine of the Earth. So I guess this is worldwide. He has gathered the vine of the earth, the clusters, or maybe it's just, yeah, okay, I don't know. So he says, in the wrath, okay, and the winepress was trodden without the city. That's in Jerusalem, okay, where all the Gentiles are treading and trampling it down, right? The outer court. So, yeah, and another great sign, marvelous, great and marvelous, having 7 last plagues. So those are vials, for in them is filled up with the, okay, these are, I find it interesting, these 7 angels with the vials and the plagues, they're also wearing what Jesus had on. It says, having their breasts girded with golden girdles. They're wearing clothed in pure white linen. And Jesus is described wearing that in Revelation 1:13. And some of this stuff you can find in the churches. I've found it and I've cross-referenced it. But I mean, it's just stuff like that you ever play that game as a child where the cards are all face down and you're trying to find the matching ones, but you've got to remember where that was when you saw the lemon over here. You're trying to, and the longer you play it, you might remember better where they were. That's what this reminds me of all day long when I'm doing it. That's what it totally reminds me of. It's like the that child game when you're like 2 years old or 5 years old and you're trying to like flip the card. Oh, that's an apple. Put it back down. Now go find another apple. Flip that. Nope, that's not an apple. That's a lemon. Put that back down. Then you lift up another one. Okay, that's an orange. No, put that back down. Well, that's a lemon and that's an apple. So let me try this card. That is a pineapple. Nope, that's not. And before too long, you kind of can remember where you saw the orange, the apple, the pineapple, the banana. And you can, anyway, times that by 10. And that's what it's like doing this. And I just don't get too much done before, yeah. Anyway, so I think this is where his vesture is dipped in blood when he comes back with his great army, however it reads, and it does mention the bride, yeah. But then after, see, I don't know, but somewhere else it's saying that he is treading the winepress, and I cross-referenced it. It's with Isaiah. Jesus says, I tread the winepress alone. Well, I can understand here he did it alone, but he's talking about it somewhere else, and he's not alone. He's not alone. It's probably the verse where it says they're his chosen and they're his this and that. See, I can't remember a damn thing. It's kind of like, I've been saying this, like moving to Georgia. I've been here since 17. 11 years. Has it been that long? Wow. 9 years then. Okay. I still can't really know my way around, but I do have the direction of a gnat, so that's bad enough. But at least in Texas, being there for 25 so years, I kind of knew better. But here, well, so thank God I figured out the map lady like back in maybe it was 2010 or something. Before then, I don't know how I ever got around. I would write down directions on the thing. But so with the map lady, she'll take you somewhere, but when you go back, she takes you a different way. So I can't ever learn my way around, which is bad enough. So, but It's like that with here. It's like, okay, I've been flipping around so much over benign things, just trivial little things like, oh, that word was said somewhere else. I want to know where it was said and what that context. And then it just makes me not even. Some days I can remember, like, okay, 10. 10 is pretty easy to remember. Uh, Jesus. See, now I'm like not even remembering why I remember it. 7, the 144 get marked. Yeah, 10. And I mean, my memory was glitching out as it was, right? Already. And now add this to it, and it's like, that's why I can start like cracking myself up, because I will be like frustrating myself with my OCD, if you will, over certain things I'm doing. And then yeah. So, yeah, 10 is, um, and I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven with a rainbow. Okay, so yeah, this is Jesus. It's about the end. Hmm. It's totally the end. It's going to be about that seventh trumpet, that seventh vial. But well, he says trumpet, I think. No, he doesn't. He doesn't say anything. He says that seventh angel, which could mean the last and final seventh angel, which is a vial. So, yeah, he declared to his servants okay, hold on. Yeah, so anyway, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, and what did I write here? So, Mystery Babylon, I wrote 17 verse 5. I don't know why. But anyway, I would find myself, oh, okay, let me rewrite it and let me reread it. And then you got to mark both spots. And then you got to mark all 3 spots 3 different ways. So, you guys, I guess I'm just on here to say, yeah, all this probably happens at the beginning of the second half, I guess. But I'll have to just, even if it is, I still haven't connected it with like the Daniel and I mean, I didn't even care anyway. All I cared about was, what about these Jews? Because you can't tell me that God is punishing the Jews all throughout history for all this, and they get tribulation too. No, I don't believe that. They're, uh, yeah. We always say, he wouldn't beat up the bride. Oh, he loves the bride. He talks so wonderful of her. She's so beautiful. I love my bride. And then you beat him to death before you have a wedding? No. He's not going to do that to his wife either, which is his bride, which are the Jews, which are the main branch. Okay? Whether they believe in Jesus or not, that's not their fault. That's not their problem. That is God's doing. He's not going to make them pay for something that he blinded them about. And so the way I see it is, if we are grafted in and we're Jews, we're one new man. Oh, and like how it says, they say they're Jews and they are not. If you read commentaries saying something like, oh, well, those Jews are, how does it go? I don't know. But basically, you might as well say they say they're Christians and they are not. Christians, Jews, they're one new man. It's grafted in. It's not technically one new man, but that's not what that verse means. But I think somewhere in Romans, it says once you're a believer, you're basically a Jew. I've already explained that when you convert to Judaism, yeah, you're a Jew, you're not blood Jew. If you convert to Christianity, you can be any race. You're now grafted in, you're now a child. A Jew is a child of God because they're his wife. It's his he's like, who gave you a divorce paper? I mean, he might have given Northern Israel divorce papers, but he's keeping that remnant, which is here right now in Israel, and the ones that we all know about. The 10 tribes, nobody knows where and who they are. They probably don't even know themselves, but they might have been divorced, but he's going to bring them back. They might be going through trib, but listen, he's not going to beat his bride to hell and, and and then say, "Come on, honey, let's go." Yeah, he won't do that to his Jews either. I'll never accept that. I'll never accept that the tribulation is for the salvation of the Jewish nation. Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, if somebody could explain that, sure, but it makes no sense that they get beat up for being blind and deaf, and they didn't even ask for that, and they are the wife. They're the wife. He's not a wife beater. God is not a wife beater. And if we don't get beat up before the rapture, I know there's post tribbers that do believe we get beat up, but I don't believe that. I don't believe in mid trib, but I can see how people might believe in mid trib. In here, I can see how people believe we're post trib. But my whole point about doing all this is because I wanted to incorporate the Matthew 24, the Mark 21, and whatever the other cross ones are, and the Ezekiel 38, and where are these Jews going to be? Because I don't think they do get raptured. I mean, I don't think they get raptured. I think they get hidden. And like a good Christian servant, will get raptured. If you're a cheater on your husband, you're not going to get married. You're a bad saved servant like the parables, and you're not getting raptured. All the ones that have already died, like the day before the rapture, they're suffering some other tribulation, but they're not going to get off scot-free. Um, I don't know where I was going with this, but man, I got like a 5-second memory. I just can't bunny trail anywhere. Yeah, the Jews. I went over all this because I'm trying to like fit it in with the Matthew and the Ezekiel and the other stuff, and now Daniel. I already knew a little bit about the Daniel 9:27 and stuff, but yeah, um, unless you had cold hard facts, scripture, that the Jews are going to go through tribulation. Oh, I was saying, sure, if they're bad Jews, like I was saying earlier in our bunny trail, they're not good people. You know what I mean? Like the Jews that are good people, they observe, they go to whatever synagogue, and they try to be good, okay? Because that's how Jews are. You got to be good to get blessed by God. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's how you should be. Anyway, even as a Christian, but not to get into heaven, So I would say, like even that Nathan boy said, he said some people go to synagogue and it's just show or it's just superficial. They're not serious about God. Not those people, not those Jews, okay? But the good Jews, they're observant. Actually, the Messianic Jews that are Christians, they will get raptured. But like, say, the Jews that are non-Messianic and they're observant, like the rabbis, like the observant Jews who are really being good, um, and they're worshiping God, right? They're not out being worldly. those Jews will be hidden. But the bad Christian servants in the parables, they're going to be left behind to go through tribulation. And so will those kind of bad Jews. But otherwise, good ones, servants, Christian servants getting raptured, Messianic Jews are getting raptured, and the good Jews, to me, are going to get hidden. And I'm going to find out how. I mean, it's right in the beginning. It's not in the mid. Well, I'm okay. If it's in the mid, it's only because the first part of the tribulation is peaceful. Yeah, like I'm thinking. You know, like Jack Hibbs was saying. And I guess I didn't really think of it in that aspect. I might have in the very beginning thinking, yeah, everything's going to be peaceful, but I meant in the other aspect, like it's going to be peaceful, like, oh, well, go along, get along. I didn't think about the religion thing, but oh, we all love each other except for the Republican types. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to make a comparison of a people. Like, we're a people group. The good people group is the Republicans and the Christians. But in the tribulation, I'm sure there'll be some Republicans there. So anyway, I know I'm babbling. I'm sorry. But yes, the good Jews will be hidden somehow. Or the first part of the tribulation, when it's all kumbaya, they're going to be able to worship in the temple whenever they want. And yeah. And so, but when shit hits the fan and that Messiah, Antichrist, goes in the temple and says he's God, that's when they're going to go, no, you ain't. You might be the Messiah, but you ain't God. Messiah isn't God. Messiah is a separate thing, is what I think they think. They think the Messiah is a separate thing. It's a Messiah. It's good. It's a savior. He's a savior, but he's not also God like the Christians think and believe. I mean, we don't think it, we know it. But you know what I mean? So, yes. I was just doing this because of that. I was doing this because I'm like, there's no way God is going to beat up his wife. He's not going to beat up his bride. It says, comfort my people. It says to us, comfort one another with these words. Well, tribulation isn't very comforting, all right? So, I mean, I'm just like, Christians can care so much about the lost, but yet they're fine with the Jews going through tribulation? I don't think so. And, I mean, it's okay to evangelize. What am I saying? Am I having a stroke? What's the word? I'm not even going to try to say it again. If you do talk to Jews about Jesus, fine. Evangelize. That was the word. Okay. I'm driving myself crazy. Hopefully I haven't, if you guys are here this long, whatever. I don't know why people say that, because I'm like, why would they say that? Like, if you've lasted this long, it's like, why bother saying that if they're here this long? Then they're here this long. If they cut out, then they never heard you say that. Anyway, I don't know. I'm just crazy. Okay, well, I'm driving myself crazy, but all I'm saying is you can preach it all you want, that they're going to tribulate, that the Jews are going to tribulate because their eyes and ears were closed. Wow, that's rude. And they're going to get beat up before all this, but yet we got to be comforted with these words. But yet we don't want to cover that. We want to save all the people, but we can live with the fact that they're going to tribulate. That is not sensical any more than it's sensical to preach this without, I mean, in depth, without expounding upon the lives of the people. Like, how are they existing without the mark? to even be evangelized by angels in the sky. And why are they talking about the mark? Don't take the mark when, I mean, what are people going to be doing? What are they doing? What are they going? What are they, Anyway, whatever. I know this video isn't very helpful about with anything, but like I said, I was going to get on here and say, I may never come back on and give you my rundown because, like I've said before, I don't even know where to begin unless I begin from and read. Or took better notes. So I may never get on about this, but I'm still going to study it because I've got too much. I don't have too much. I have just a few more loose ends, and then I think I've done, squared it away. So, but yeah, I just want to get on and say, if I find out that this stuff does happen in the second half, and sure, that sounds good that there's a bunch of peace for 3.5 years, false peace. But I don't believe, the mark is offered yet in the first 3.5. Once he says, I'm God in the temple, that's when you got to take his mark. Not immediately after, but So that's when I guess they're going to start deciding they want to kill the whore, unless that's when the whore shows up, or has the whore been here all along, or I don't know how they compute that stuff. But if they're computing it exactly opposite of how I think it was, that means all this happens at the end. That means the image and the false prophet and the two witnesses and which the two witnesses are going to be here for 3.5 solid years. Once they die and go up, there's a lot more stuff that has to happen. But it could just take 30 minutes because there's 30 minutes of silence in heaven. I think everything happens fast. I think that is for the vials. And I mean, I don't know, even during the vials and after the vials, when I run across the vials, when they're talking about the vials again, the fourth vial, they're over there in 6, I think, they're saying, let the rocks fall on us. But then when you get to the vials in chapter 16, that happens at the fourth vial. So they have 3 more vials have yet to happen, and they're still cursing him, see. I don't know how to explain that, but I know that when I was reading it, that's what so when you hear me say stuff, you just have to take my word for it that it's in the Bible, unless you want to just Google it yourself, because I'll never be able to tell you where or the verse, because I'll kind of remember that some stuff, but I can't tell you where. But anyway, yes, it to what I remember, it's the fourth vial, and when you go back and forth cross-reference, they basically are still alive, still kicking and cursing and stuff, and things are really, really horrible bad. I don't see why anybody would be getting evangelized. I would think all the good people, Christians, are hidden or assassinated and killed and martyred, and I don't see how that time frame. Anyway, so okay, sorry, this is just me babbling, my babbling video. Okay, and I guess that's it. As soon as I get off here, I'm going to think of a million things. I'll look over my notes better and slower, and I'll be like, I mean, maybe I'll just do little clips of videos, but okay, so this is just me saying I'll figure out whether I do or don't. All I know is I believe the bride doesn't get beat up before she's married and consummates her wedding. She's not black and blue and bloody on her wedding day, and neither are the Jews. We comfort each other with these words, and we comfort my people, Jesus says. That's not very comforting to be preaching from a pulpit saying the tribulation is for the salvation of the Jewish nation. If that is even true, you need to decipher and delineate and separate, who are you talking about? Are you talking about the bad Jews? Well, you need to specify that. You can't just be saying, oh yeah, all Jews. No, that's so effing rude. I can't believe preachers have been doing that for years. It's so rude. So rude. You do not tell that to Jews. You don't tell that to anybody, especially since you want to save the whole world. Well, know Jesus. But since the Jews don't want to know Jesus, they got to go to church. We've tried. We've tried. Their eyes are closed, you moron. You read the Bible. You can't freaking remember that one verse. Their eyes and ears are closed. What part of that do you not understand? They're not going to be going through tribulation unless it's the bad ones, like the bad servant Christians. But you don't even want to talk about bad servant Christians. Yeah, being left behind in the trib. But it's plain as day in the Bible and several all over the place. You don't, yeah. And if you die before the rapture, you're still paying. You're going to get tribulation some way or another. Just like the other ones left behind that didn't die before the rapture, okay? All right, well, God bless you guys. And thanks for staying this long, if you have stayed this long. Because if you stayed this long, that means you did want to stay this long. You would have hung up a long time ago. So this is just some normal video that I might as well say thank you for watching at the end of every video, right? Because if you don't watch till the very end, whether it's 10 minutes or 5 hours, then that's your business. I'm glad for you. Good. So either way, well, God bless you. Bye.